in the same way. And so we've had to change our culture internally. But I think it's all been much for the better.
So what are the new goals? You talked a little bit, it sounds like, about one that's newer, is recognizing that retention is as much an issue as intake. Anything else?
So far, we actually tied to every manager's pay 2 goals. One is the percentage hiring of diverse population, so both gender and color, and then retention. We've just tied those 2 to everybody's annual bonus, and we just stayed with that right now. I believe you have to have it simple and clear, right? So that if you get it too complex and you start adding 4 or 5, people won't understand. Now everybody's vested in, I don't want these people that we're hiring to leave either. And once you get them vested in that, it works pretty well.
Are other tech CEOs calling you and saying, how did you do this? We want to do it too. Or is this, are you on an island out there?
So they're definitely not calling and saying, tell us how you did it.
Okay.
And that's okay, right? I think Silicon Valley...
Is it?
Well, okay.
Because when you do other things well, you get those calls.
You do, but in technology, you never want to just go say, well, I just did it the way he did, right? Okay. So you always want to be able to say, I invented it myself, or I developed something bigger and better. What I do think I've seen is a start of a shift in Silicon Valley of other people. If you take a look at the number of people, so Mark Benioff now publishes and committed to make, by gender, all pay parity, as an example, and to publish that. I've talked to him about, well, Mark, why don't you try ethnicity next, right? He'll go off and take a look. So I think you'll see this slow process that people will do it in their own way, put their own personality in it. But I think we've set a benchmark that my goal was, at the end of this, nobody can stand up and say you can't do this. And once you look an engineer in the eye and say it's been done, they're not going to accept anything else but figure out how to do it themselves. They may do it their own way, they may put their culture around it, but they're not going to accept. And so I tried to kind of play into the mindset of Silicon Valley and say, okay, if we can go out and do it, then they're gonna have to do it by the way the process works here.
Well, BK, that is what I call a different kind of moonshot that you are executing on and attempting. That's why I say, you scared me when you first came out with that, because I had never seen a Silicon Valley CEO talk like that before. Quick plug for my podcast, Fort Knox, FORTTKNOX. BK was an early guest on the podcast. He gets much more into his background and how he came to this way of thinking. I want to move on and talk a little bit now about artificial intelligence, which is one of the areas where Intel is pushing in what I call a post-PC era. Not to mean that people aren't still buying PCs, but they're not the main driver.
Look at them all out there.
Look at all those PCs. Macs, Windows PCs, all with Intel processors and AMD. What should entrepreneurs and workers at large organizations be thinking about how AI affects their strategy over the next 3 to 5 years? What should they be reading? What should they be watching besides Squawk Alley at 11 a.m. Eastern on CNBC to get smart about this?
I've been speaking a lot about this, both at home and in the environment. No matter what you do, I don't care if you're a doctor that is a phenomenal surgeon or something, or you're a scientist, or you're trying to run a financial company, it doesn't really matter. Artificial intelligence is going to penetrate just about everything in your life. And if you're starting a business or thinking about a business or thinking about a strategy, you start with the data, right? Artificial intelligence is all about data. It has to be built on data. It has to either see or observe or have some input of data. So think about your data first. You have to have access to your data. That's going to be the most valuable thing that you own. We talk about data is the new oil. If you look back at the last century, data or oil really drove so many industries and so much change in the culture. Data is the same way, and it's just starting. And then what's next is you're going to want to apply artificial intelligence to that. So whether it's about your customers, whether it's about the hard scientific things you do, you're a doctor, it's going to read your x-rays in the future for you. Whatever it is, artificial intelligence is going to penetrate your life, including, you can already see it penetrating your life at home.
And a quick definition in terms. I was recently doing a panel with Tom Siebel, who's doing C3 IoT, which is largely based on Internet of Things and artificial intelligence. And the way he put it is that in the past, people would write these algorithms that would decide what to do with data. In the age of artificial intelligence, the software is altering the algorithm to figure out what to do with the data. So it's getting smarter on its own. Is that how you would define it?
It is. Once you give it a framework, it can then continuously learn. The holy grail or the goal that everybody has is a continuous learning machine, which we hope to actually show. But let me give you an example. We just introduced 2 weeks ago a neuromorphic. Now a lot of that.
What?
Yeah, that term probably passed by a lot of you, but it is the beginnings of a machine that continuously learns. So if you take a look at this water bottle, if I wanted to be able to have artificial intelligence detect this water bottle from any angle, any position, I would have probably had to take about 1,000 pictures from every angle and then label each one. Water bottle, water bottle, water bottle, water bottle. Now I can take a video of this and in 5 seconds spin it, and in 5 seconds the system can detect that it's a water bottle. So that machine is now learning. So now it can go off and learn all kinds of other images. And rather than taking thousands of images that you have to hand enter, it can literally do it in a couple of seconds and segregate them all out and define it. That is the future of artificial intelligence, yes.
More and more, you're a global company. You're having to deal with culture issues, with political issues. We sat down back in May, and at the time, this current administration had announced that they were backing out of the Paris Climate Accord. You were on a tech council with the president, said that engagement is important, you were going to stick with it. Then Charlottesville happened.
Yeah.
And you and a number of other CEOs said, no mas. And you backed away from that engagement with the president. But you're a global company, doing business all around the world. How do you navigate the various challenges, policies, politics that might run counter to what Intel is about, and yet still do business not only around the world, but here in the United States?
So we hold to our values. So, we do a lot of business China. China's 25% of our business, roughly, and one of our fastest growing areas of business. And clearly, we don't subscribe to a communist government, and we aren't living in a communist country. So we follow our rules. We follow the rules within China, but if that's going to break some basic value that we have, we won't do it, and we'll go work with the government and try and find a workaround. So, whether it's data privacy or sharing of our intellectual property, we just won't do it. We try to hold that same value here within the United States too. So for me, Charlottesville, where that came from was that this whole issue became so politicized, right? I was on that council to drive a very important issue, that manufacturing is critical for the U.S. We have to get our manufacturing legs back underneath us. And it's a great time because so much manufacturing with artificial intelligence, again, is becoming automated, and all of the things that drive cost are almost not geographically important anymore. It's a great opportunity for the U.S. to get back into manufacturing. That issue was being lost by the politics. And that's when I said, look, this is becoming a political discussion instead of one of manufacturing. I'm not a politician. I'm an engineer. And then when there was a personal tax on Ken from Merck, I felt like that was the one that broke my personal value, that I needed to back away.
So it was the personal attacks on the CEO of Merck, who happens to be an African American, that was also a lot.
Yeah, that one wouldn't have mattered what ethnicity or gender. It was just, that's somebody who I had a lot of respect for, and I'm not gonna participate in something where that person's attacked.
You mentioned manufacturing, and a lot of people don't know Intel still has most of its manufacturing in the U.S. Is that correct?
75%.
You got some with Germany, Israel, some other places?
China and Israel and Ireland.
And Ireland, sorry, not Germany. Is that 75% number likely to stay around there? And what does it depend on?
This is why I thought the council was so important. It's tax. So if you take a look at it, if I build a factory in China versus build a factory in the U.S., there's about a $2 billion difference over a 10-year period. $2 billion. And majority of that is tax. It's not wages. It's not construction costs. It's taxes. And so you asked the question, will it stay? So far, I've been able to convince myself and my shareholders that proximity, having it local to the research and development, there's a value in all of that. If you look at our, we try and stay very close. But over time, that number has grown. If you went back 10 or 15 years ago, there was about $1 billion difference in tax. As the cost of the factories goes up and other countries put tax incentives in, that number's grown from $1 billion to $2 billion. Eventually, that number will get to a point where if we don't fix the tax issues in the U.S., no, we won't be able to keep manufacturing here.
All right, here, check this out. Still at the Black Enterprise Technology Summit here, and we have Mr. Taye in the house. What's happening with you, sir?
I have to say, I feel a little bit silly. I had no idea that things like this existed. I feel like I'm staring into the eyes of 1,000,000 black unicorns, like, beautiful African Americans that are brilliant. I grew up, and I was considered intelligent, and I was in a crew of not many. So to be here at a convention, at a conference, from, high schoolers all the way up to, billionaire owners of amazing companies, I'm flabbergasted and so proud, so proud.
What's your role here tonight?
I'm here with a friend of mine right here.
Oh, yeah.
Say who you are.
Yeah, I'm Rodney.
All
Taye,
right.
We're going to be bringing Sober One to the world. We want folks to be able to drink responsibly, but instead of just being a tagline at the end of a commercial, we want it to be something that they can hold in their hand and actually do. So when someone says, "How do I drink responsibly?" we can hand them something and say, "This is how."
Boom.
We can give parents the parents can trust and verify that their kids are driving their $50,000, $60,000 car and not drinking.
And I'm on from the ground level.
But no, and Taye has everyone respects his work, and they know he's very serious about his craft and what he does. And
I want to be smarter, so I came here. I want to invest in smart stuff, and I think this is smart. So, big ups to this establishment.
And show blacks that we don't have to. We don't have to pick up a basketball or football.
There's nothing wrong with that, but we can do other things very, very well.
And by the team.
These students coding and decoding, and I'm amazed.
It's an amazing possibility.
Very good. And the name of your product again?
Is Sober One, SOBR and the number 1. And it's sober1.com, and you can go there and check out what we're doing, what we're going to be doing in the future and everything. It's going to be awesome.
Your role in it, what was that?
I'm the president and founder. I own all of this.
You own all of this.
I'm an owner, not an employee. And so that's what I'm trying to show other African Americans, that they can be owners and not employees in tech.
Thank you. Congratulations to you. So the big rollout, when we should be expecting?
Oh, it's out. Sober One is out on